Monster catching games are getting strange again, and that might be exactly what the genre needs. For years, every new creature collector had to deal with the same question: is this the next Pokemon? And sure, that comparison is always going to be there. Pokemon is Pokemon. But the more interesting games right now are not trying to replace it. They are taking the creature collecting idea and bending it into something different. City builders, survival crafting, farming sims, roguelites, third-person shooters, cozy sandboxes, and even games where the world itself is a giant living creature. That's where this new wave gets exciting. So today on Magic Game World, we're looking at 10 upcoming monster catching and creature collecting games worth keeping on your radar. Some stay close to the classic monster RPG formula, others go way outside the usual lane. But in all of them, creatures are not just side content, they are the reason the game works. First up is OddFauna Secret of the Terrabeast, and this one has a setup that immediately stands out. You live on the back of a giant creature called the Terrabeast, so instead of simply walking through another fantasy region and collecting monsters along the way, you are helping a living world grow underneath your feet. You build, craft, explore, befriend strange little creatures called OddFauna, while slowly turning this massive beast into a place that feels alive. The handmade clay model style gives the game a warm, strange, slightly rough around the edges charm. It has personality before you even know how deep the systems go. This does not look like the pick for players who only care about competitive battling or perfect team builds. OddFauna feels more like a cozy sandbox adventure where the creatures are part of the world's identity. If it makes that ecosystem feel genuinely alive, this could be one of the most memorable games on the list. For something closer to a classic monster RPG, there is LumenTale Memories of Trey. This is probably the most familiar looking game here, and honestly, that works in its favor. You play as Trey, explore the world of Talea, recover lost memories, and collect creatures called Aniimo. There are elemental types, team building, battles, exploration, and a proper RPG story tying it all together. Sometimes familiar is exactly what people want from this genre. Not every creature collector has to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes the appeal is simple: a colorful world, cool monsters, tight matchups, towns to visit, and that feeling of slowly building a team you actually care about. LumenTale looks like it understands that comfort zone. It's not running away from the Pokemon comparison, but it also doesn't come across like a cheap copy. It looks like a game made for players who still love the traditional monster-catching rhythm and just want a fresh adventure with a new world, a new story, and new creatures to obsess over. Then there's Eldrem, and this one needs a slightly different expectation. Eldrem isn't really a straight monster-catching RPG. It's more of a fantasy action RPG built around dragon taming, breeding, training, kingdom building, and conquering sky islands. So this is not the game where you wander through routes, fill out a monster roster, and challenge gym leaders. The fantasy is bigger and more ambitious. You are raising dragons, building a kingdom, and using those creatures as part of a larger power structure. That could be a great hook, as long as the game delivers on it. Next is Tamer Town, and this might be one of the smartest ideas here. The pitch is simple, but it works. What if a monster collector was also a city builder? You collect creatures called Mokaton, but they're not just sitting in storage until the next fight. They're part of the town. They're tied into progression. They help shape the place you're building, and the whole world is based around tamers and monsters living together. That small shift changes the entire feeling. In many monster-catching games, creatures mostly matter when it's time to battle. Tamer Town seems more interested in what they do outside combat. How do they help the town grow? How does the place change because of the creatures you bring in? That's the hook. If Tamer Town can make the town feel truly connected to the monsters you collect, this could be a strong, cozy management spin on the genre. Then we have Witchspire, which moves into a completely different lane. This is not a traditional monster RPG. It's more of a magical survival crafting adventure with creature companions and familiar-style energy. You explore, craft, farm, mine, use magic, and build out a witchy life in a world that looks cozy but not completely safe. The appeal is the vibe: magical pets, broomsticks, co-op crafting, a witch sanctuary, and strange creatures in the wild. Witchspire isn't trying to be a direct Pokemon-style game, and it doesn't need to be. It feels more like creature collecting through a survival crafting lens. That's where the genre gets interesting, when monsters and companions start showing up outside the usual turn-based RPG box. Now, Path to Tamer Town takes the Mokuton idea and gives it a faster, more replayable shape. While Tamer Town is the slower city-building game, Path to Tamer Town is the roguelite version. You travel through procedural journeys, meet wild Mokuton, build a team, make route choices, evolve your creatures, and try to survive the run. That structure makes a lot of sense for monster catching. Not every creature collector needs to be a massive RPG that takes 60 hours to finish. Sometimes the fun comes from jumping in, building a weird team, taking a risk, getting wiped out, and coming back with a better plan. Path to Tamer Town has the same creature collecting appeal, but with a quicker rhythm and more replay value. Then there's Aniimo, probably the biggest game on this list in terms of scale. This is an open-world, creature-collecting action RPG where players explore a large fantasy world, collect magical creatures, fight in real time, and use a system called twining to connect with them. On paper, Aniimo has a setup that could reach a much bigger audience: a big world, real-time combat, creature collecting, polished visuals, and online-friendly systems. That's a strong pitch. The question is how the free-to-play side will feel. With a game like this, creature designs and combat matter, but progression matters just as much. Will the best creatures feel fair to earn? Will the grind respect the player's time? Will the game feel generous enough without letting monetization get in the way? Those are the questions that will matter most once the game is actually out. But as a game to watch, Aniimo is hard to ignore. If it lands, it could easily become one of the biggest new creature collectors in the space. Voidling Bound moves in a much louder direction. This is a sci-fi third-person shooter built around monster taming. You hatch, evolve, and upgrade alien creatures called Voidlings, but the big twist is that you're not just standing behind them and giving commands. You control the creatures directly in combat. That changes the whole energy. Voidling Bound is faster, more physical, and more action-focused than the usual monster RPG. It's not cozy. It's not retro. It's not trying to feel like a handheld adventure from childhood. It's monster collecting with aliens, upgrades, shooting, and direct combat. For players who like monster taming but want battles with more punch, this could be the one that grabs them. After that, Disc Creatures World brings things back to the old-school crowd. This one is built around colorful pixel art, a roster of over 300 creatures, and strategic 3-on-3 battles where your team shares a single energy pool. The biggest twist is the shake system. Instead of simple linear evolutions, you can use item recipes to change a creature's type and form based on your strategy. It captures that classic feeling of finding some odd little monster and immediately thinking, yeah, this one might be coming with me. Disc Creatures World is not trying to be massive or cinematic, and that's part of the appeal. It feels like creature collecting comfort food. Simple, charming, focused, and clearly made for people who miss that older handheld RPG feeling. And finally, there is Monsterpatch, a cozy monster collecting RPG with farming and town building elements. You catch magical creatures called Mons, battle other wizards, grow crops, craft items, explore, and slowly uncover the mystery of the world. The easy way to describe it is Pokemon meets a farming sim, and that absolutely works. There is plenty of room in this genre for softer games that are not just about becoming the strongest trainer or saving the world from a massive threat. Sometimes the appeal is quieter than that. You collect creatures, build up a town, grow a few crops, meet strange characters, and watch the world open up little by little. Monsterpatch looks like it is aiming for that cozy, charming, easy to get attached to feeling. If the creatures are memorable enough, that can be just as powerful as a huge, flashy adventure. So that is the list, and the exciting part is how different these games are from each other. LumenTale and Disc Creatures World keep the classic monster RPG spirit alive. Aniimo and Voidling Bound push the genre toward action. Tamer Town and Path to Tamer Town bring in city building and roguelite structure, and OddFauna, Witchspire, and Monsterpatch pull creature collecting into cozy crafting, farming, and survival spaces. That is way more interesting than waiting around for one big Pokemon killer. The genre does not need a replacement. It needs more strange ideas, more memorable creatures, and more games willing to take the formula somewhere new. Which one would you play first? Drop your pick in the comments. And for more upcoming RPGs, creature collectors, and hidden gems, keep it here on Magic Game World.